We have all confused professionalism with a performance, with an act, because we've been taught to follow invisible rules. Welcome to Professional AF, the podcast where we burn invisible rules right to the ground. I'm your host, Stephanie Potter, and today on episode 1, we're going to be talking about unmasking the bullshit at work. We're calling out fake invisible rules that have been holding us back for way too long. We're going to talk about what professionalism really means, why we've been taught to play small, and why it's time to rewrite the whole damn playbook. No matter how much we try to conform, we're always going to be ourselves. I wore a mask for way too long, and now that I've taken that mask off, I've realized that my worth is not defined by title or a salary. I am authentically me, and I have chosen a path that doesn't involve playing and living by invisible rules that have plagued so many of us in the workplace. Let me preface by saying I am not an HR expert. I'm not an HR professional, but what I am is a branding expert. And when I'm brought into organizations to help update their brand, the first question I ask is, what is your culture like so that I can begin to understand the organization? Because I am a firm believer that your brand and your culture are one, they are married. Oftentimes, the culture is a mess and no one really knows what's going on. And so many people are really unhappy at work. And most of the time, people are unhappy at work because of these invisible rules, because they're being told to play this game and keep themselves small. And what that really is doing is asking a branding expert to put lipstick on a pig. And your employees are going to not like a brand that is a fake facade of what you really are. And your customers are going to sniff that bullshit out really quickly. And the truth is, your team's not going to be happy. Consumers are smart and they're not going to buy your brand if you're not being authentic. So let's start with a few definitions of professionalism. What really jumps out at me are these words: competence, belonging, qualified, pursuit of an activity, and livelihood. And nowhere does this say you must behave a certain way. It's really about competence, belonging, being qualified for the job, and really pursuing the activity that you're intended to do and earning money and feeling like you belong. So I've created a definition for modern day professionalism. Professionalism is the competence of skills, qualification, and the pursuit of an activity for a livelihood and a sense of belonging. As we move through this episode and future episodes, we're really going to keep this modern day definition of professionalism in mind. And let's be real, we've all been asked to look professional, act professional, be professional. But no one has ever given you a manual that says this is what professionalism looks like. Because professionalism as we know it is completely made up. It's a messy mix of expectations that have been passed down from generations of leaders. And what was fitting 50 years ago, 30 years ago, heck, even 10 years ago, is not relevant in today's modern workforce. Especially as we see younger generations entering the workforce, there is this sense of change that needs to take place. So here are some invisible rules that I have experienced personally. Your clothing isn't nice enough. Always be positive, as if having a bad day can never exist. Never say no to your boss. That, my friends, is how innovation dies. Cursing is unprofessional. Why? I'm not saying go into a client meeting and throw out an F-bomb, but sometimes perfectly misplaced cuss words are sometimes necessary. Working overtime is required. Absolutely not. Don't ask questions because somehow being curious makes you unprofessional. Don't be loud. I get loud when I'm passionate, and it's passion and excitement, not anger. Always apologizing, even when you are not wrong. I am a victim of consistently apologizing when I have absolutely nothing to be sorry for. If you make a mistake, instead of apologizing, just correct and fix the mistake. Don't waste your time apologizing. Listen, but don't speak. Don't bring attention to yourself. And my absolute favorite, your shoes are sending the wrong message. You heard it. I have been told that my shoes are sending a sexual innuendo. And here's the kicker. These invisible rules are not written anywhere. And somehow you break one of these rules and all of a sudden you're labeled as unprofessional. I learned the hard way. Early in my career, I thought if I looked the part, dressed the part, tried to be quiet, diminish my worth a little, that I would make it. I even smiled through bullshit and lies to try to conform to someone else's expectation of professionalism versus my competence, my knowledge, my years of experience. And instead of climbing the ladder and being happy and things being wonderful, I burn out big time. I sacrifice my health. I sacrifice relationships. I sacrifice my sanity. My own identity was completely changed because I was trying to live up to someone else's expectation of being professional and being professional enough. And then it hit me. These people that are giving you this unsolicited advice most of the time that you're not professional enough often aren't more competent than you. But what they do have is power. And they keep the power by enforcing these invisible rules on you. So I said, fuck that. I stopped performing. I stopped pretending. I stopped apologizing. And I started showing up as myself, loud, unpolished, authentic, and real. Because in my opinion, if my competence isn't enough, then the problem isn't professionalism. The problem is the people defining this definition of professionalism. Professionalism is really about competence, contribution, and character. So, can you do your job well? Can you do what's expected of you well? Can you perform the job duties? Do you lead with integrity? Are you a person with integrity? And do you make an impact? Those are the things that are important in professionalism, not invisible rules. And nowhere in the modern day definition of professionalism does it say you're not allowed to say no and you're never allowed to cuss, as if cursing somehow makes you less competent. We have all confused professionalism with a performance, with an act, because we've been taught to follow invisible rules. And it's costing us talent, it's costing us innovation, and it's costing us mental health. So it's time to break these rules. Let's set these rules completely on fire. Because the real danger isn't that these rules exist. It's that we have been trained to smile through them and pretend like they don't bother us and ultimately silently play along. So let's stop apologizing for our mistakes. Just fix them instead. Let's stop being a yes person and really start to think for ourselves. That is where innovation comes from. Let's start authentically being ourselves. Be curious and don't hold yourself back. And let's start setting boundaries so that we have a good work-life balance. Let's start a cultural revolution, and burning these rules to the ground is the start. Now let's work on building up each other and building a workplace that makes sense for real people, not robots. Say no, speak up, wear the damn sneakers, and take the day off. And employers, stop expecting your employees to follow these rules, these invisible rules blindly. It's your job to adapt your leadership skills to a modern workforce, not the other way around. And I will tell you, this is the reason people are leaving the corporate world. People are going to start their own businesses to have freedom and to have peace of mind because they're tired of playing these outdated games that are being played in the corporate setting. Because real professionalism is about owning your voice, setting boundaries, and knowing your worth. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 1, Professional AF, the podcast. If this episode hit home, please send this to your friends and your coworkers who are tired of the corporate bullshit. Next episode, we are going to discuss burnout isn't a badge of honor, why overworking is not a leadership flex, and taking back your mental health. Until then, stay bold, stay authentic, and stay professional AF.